This is the why that built us. And one of the reasons I'm so excited to bring this to you guys is I think that behind every founder, there's a purpose. There's a why. Everyone has an incredible story of how they got here. And each and every one of these industry rock stars that sits up here on this stage has one of those stories to share. So why don't I just kick it off and have each of them go around and just do a quick introduction, and then we'll dive in. So Kim, we'll start with you.
First of all, I just want to say you guys are rock stars because you're still here. It's diehard that you're still sitting. So good on you. I appreciate you guys. So my story is kind of interesting. I started as an IFBB pro fitness competitor and was sponsored by Joe Weider. I've known this guy. We've been in the same industry for like 30 years. I'm 52, so I've been in the fitness industry about 35 years, and I did very well on the fitness stages and very well in the magazines, and that led me to an audition to be the trainer on The Biggest Loser in season 3 and 4. I got the call from a producer to come in and audition. I was totally honored, and I got there, and I was number 753 signing in. So it was a long story short, I got the job after many interviews, and it was life-changing for me. I went from dialing in six packs and helping people get ready for stage to saving people's lives. And it was a very dramatic change for me, but it changed my perspective on what I do for a living. I realized that I'm not just helping people look good on stage, I'm saving people's lives through fitness and nutrition. And that was such a huge impact on me that it led me to start several businesses, and one of them, which I am super excited to talk about today because I've had to pause and pivot and basically starting over after $70 million and 10 years under a licensing deal. So I'm really excited to share with that journey with you guys today.
Sean, you want to go next?
Like Kim said, I've been in the bodybuilding and fitness space since I was 17 years old. I'm a few years older than her. I'm 60 years old now, retired from bodybuilding for 24 years. Competed in the Mr. Olympia 13 times. Promote my own bodybuilding show in Hawaii for the past 9 years, but I've been a bodybuilding promoter since 2006. I go around, I do conferences, speaking engagements, seminars, and promotions for bodybuilding. I represent different companies, and I'm just kind of a missionary for the sport of bodybuilding these days.
Michael?
Yeah, my name is Michael Henderson. I'm the founder and CEO of Wolfpack. We started in a garage 5 years ago. Probably heard of us. We got the backpacks, the duffel bags. I got a fan right there. But I've been in the fitness industry as a fan since I was 17, 18. Grew up in Columbus, Ohio. This guy right here was my favorite bodybuilder, and here I am sitting next to him. But no, I just fell in love with the sport and got bit by the bug, like most everyone. I stayed close to it for 25 years. I was in the automotive business, and then I started the brand, Wolfpack, and here we are today.
Amazing. So every great company and founder idea begins with that moment, that spark realization. Michael, why don't we start with you? What was yours? What was that realization? And how did that come about to kind of drive you to build Wolfpack?
Yeah, the brand kind of got sparked through a disruption. It was 2019. I got the stage 3 cancer. So it kind of woke me up and made me start questioning what my purpose was. I was very comfortable, very complacent in the automotive business, very successful. And when you get that news, it kind of starts making you question what you're doing, what your purpose is, what your why is. And I had to process that all of 2019, figure out what I wanted to do. And I didn't exactly know. I just knew I needed to do something bigger. I had a second opportunity in life, and I took all of 2019 to go through my recovery. Went through 2020 as we're all facing COVID, and decided at that moment I wanted to do something big that could outlast me, that could be bigger than me, that I could hand down to my daughters. And I said the only thing that could be bigger than me is start a brand. So I went on that purpose to start this brand. I continued to work my day job, and Wolfpack was my work in the evenings and on weekends. And we just jumped right in, and felt very successful where we're at today, but we're still young. We're 5 years young.
Amazing. And I want each of you to answer that question because that's really the foundation of this conversation. So Kim, how about you?
It's kind of funny because my why isn't really one big moment. It was kind of a collection of moments. And when I was on The Biggest Loser, there was one moment that was I don't even know why it was such a big moment, but I was being interviewed and I was watching two of my contestants off in the grass and they had resistant bands and they were standing close to each other and I had them doing a basic row. And they just decided to keep getting farther and farther and farther and farther apart. And I'm stuck in this interview chair and I'm thinking to myself, that resistance tube is going to bust. It's going to break any minute now. And then sure enough, snap, and it flung back. And I don't know if you guys have ever been hit by a slingshot, but it's no joke. This guy had a welt for weeks. And it took a 362-pound guy completely down. And at that moment, my brain just started to go, it just seems like there should be better equipment out there. I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but I want to take something that's crappy and I want to make it better. And my wheels started to turn around the resistance tubes. Every time I had to train with them, the handles were disgusting. The foam was half rotted off. This 50,000 sweaty hands had been on. It was just gross. And I thought, I have this dog leash and it has a really cool handle. That's what resistant tubes need. And then I was like, and I bet some way you could put a cord in there so that you couldn't stretch it too far. And then those ideas just started to evolve over time to, we filmed in Simi Valley in a beautiful home and I wanted to swing some kettlebells with my clients and they weren't allowed to swing the kettlebells because they scratched the floor. So I was annoyed by that. And I thought, there has to be a way to take a kettlebell and put some kind of a soft casing on it, but still keep that original structure of the kettlebell so that it can still do everything it's meant to do. I couldn't find it out there. I found lots of sandbag ones, but they lost the initial structure of what a kettlebell was. So my head just kept spinning around these different ideas, and that ended up being a very successful equipment line. And so that was kind of my why, is again, not recreating the wheel, just taking something that I thought I could make better.
Sean, how about you? I know you're involved in several different brands. You've built brands. You're one of the biggest names in the bodybuilding industry. So, what was the why behind your career path?
Well, for an athlete, there's a shelf life. And as I came towards the end of my career, it's all I knew. I started at 17. I turned pro 4 years later when I was 21 by winning the national championships. Went on to do 13 consecutive Olympias. And as I was doing that, I was doing the television show Flex Magazine Workout for Joe Weider. I was emceeing bodybuilding shows, and it was all I pretty much knew. I dropped out of college to pursue this. Becoming a historian of the sport kept me in front of the camera, kept me close to the athletes coming up behind me. And I knew my body of work was inspirational to the younger guys, so I reached back and tried to mentor some of them. And in the process, I created my own show, became a promoter. And from an athlete's perspective, you look at promoters, you can promote the show until you just don't want to promote anymore. And I watched a lot of guys coming up as promoters evolve and do other things. And through my competition promoting, I was able to then work closer with sponsors. Thank you, Mike. He's been sponsoring my show in Hawaii for the past 3 years. And it's kind of a domino effect. You kind of grow old with the people that you make relationships with. If you're giving them what they want and you're getting what you need, it's kind of very synergistic. I'm able to give opportunities to athletes coming up trying to be like I was. I know where they're going. I've been where they're at. So staying involved in the game by kind of being diversified with equipment company, clothing lines, the bag company, the supplements, it all kind of is interconnected. And now it's global. So I'm in Germany and Spain and Russia. I go all over the world. And I do remember the phrase when Ben Weider said he was a missionary for bodybuilding. And I've kind of taken on that role in my own way because I know kind of what my experience is. And I share that with the guys coming up behind me. There's value in that. And I don't forget kind of where I came from. I know what that feels like to win your first contest or to meet your first celebrity bodybuilder or Olympian. And sharing the gospel of bodybuilding and fitness kind of gets me out of bed every day. So it also keeps me very diversified because there's a lot of components to this sport of bodybuilding, especially when you're a promoter. Dealing with the judges, the sponsors, the venues, the athletes. There's a lot of moving parts. It gets me out of bed.
Absolutely. I'm a newer founder and entrepreneur, about a year and a half in, and I'm learning so much from everyone that we've been working with. One of the things that I have found for myself is that purpose has really shaped all of my decisions in life. Not just my personal decisions, but my business decisions. And, that was one of the reasons, a year and a half ago, I just up and quit my job. It was probably not the smartest thing to do, is just quit your job that, is paying you well and start a company. But I did that, and I'm really glad I did. And there have been struggles along the way, but now in just learning from you, I would like to know how has your purpose shaped these decisions in your life, be they personal or professional? Kim?
Wow, that's a loaded question. And I honestly, purpose is the foundation of everything that you do, and you have that in your heart. But at the same time, it's your failures that build you. I could do an entire speech up here and tell you guys how many times I've fallen on my face. And the best part of every failure is something amazing came from it. And when I look back at all of those, it kind of takes away the fear of failure, and it allows you to go after your purpose with a little more aggression, because you play out those scenarios and you go, it can't get any worse than what happened before. And then it does. And you're like, wow, okay, well, I didn't think I could get any stronger, but dadgummit, here I am. And so don't be afraid to fail, because you will, again and again and again. And it's going to be hard. Just like you said, the struggle is real. And I really feel like too often now on social media, you see everybody's highlights. And I know we all know this, but it's hard. It's really hard, because you see what you think is so successful. And I could tell you many stories of successful people out there that I think are killing it. And then I have conversations with them and they're like, I am dead broke. My business is not working. Nothing's working. I'm dying inside. How do you do what you do? And then there's me, who wasn't posting at all, because after The Biggest Loser, there was a moment where I just needed to disappear. That was emotionally very challenging, to go from being known in the fitness world, but not everywhere, to being on primetime NBC literally overnight and being known in every household. It was awesome, don't get me wrong, but I needed it to go away when it did. I was ready to be quiet in the world. So I built a 10-year business quietly. I didn't build it out loud. I didn't build it on social media. You guys, it made $70 million, $0 million. That was under a licensing deal. Don't worry, that wasn't in my pocket. But I'm just saying, like, don't be afraid to go out there and fail and build and not tell your story socially, and take that pressure off of yourself, and know that there's so many different ways that you can build on your passion, and it doesn't have to be underneath a structure that is spotlighted.
Yeah, to follow up with Kim saying about failure, I remember when I won the national championships and he said, what's next? I said, I'll probably lose more than I win. At that time, I'd won everything, the Teenage County, the Teenage LA, the Teenage California, Teen America, Junior World. I was on a winning streak. And then I turned pro and I didn't win. And it was losing that kept me getting back up. I had to keep reinventing myself, and they were bigger and they were more imposing. And there was really no way around trying to beat them. I just had to be the best version of myself. But losing kept me coming back for more and more. And of course, as you age out, you start thinking a little bit like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Where's my passion? And as an athlete, it's scary, because you don't know if you're going to be able to continue to parlay that success off the stage in areas where you once had the confidence of getting on stage and posing. I had control over that. But it was the relationships, I think, for me, that I built over the decades of being off the stage that are the most important. Now I'm actually helping other people. If you know the name of Phil Heath, 7-time Mr. Olympia, his first pro win was a show I promoted. Another guy by the name of Kai Green, he was down on his luck, did my show. He actually got dead last in that first show I promoted. The next year he came back and won. And both of them just skyrocketed. And I feel like I'm a part of their journey. And that little bit of, hanging on to their success kind of keeps me close to what they were doing, close to people that wanted to be like them. So it's a big network, a family actually, over the decades, because I'm a part of all of their success. And I think being around successful people for me has always kept me motivated to hang on where other people let go and not get discouraged.
Really interesting points that you both touched on. I want to dive into the challenge piece a little bit, however, because I truly believe, to what both of you just said, that that purpose is truly forged in the heat of challenge. It doesn't come with the easy stuff. It doesn't come on the easy days. I mean, our lives are these strings of challenges just, put together, and it's how are we reacting to these? What are we doing with the information that's given to us in these challenges? I'm going to kick it over to you. What has entrepreneurship taught you about your own resilience and self-belief?
Wow, it's still teaching me. It's taught me failure. It's taught me success. It's taught me to keep going on. It really challenges you. It makes you stronger, makes you allowed to lift heavier in your mind. And you have to constantly keep, talking to yourself internally about not giving up, about keep going, and just don't stop. I went through cancer and the recovery of that, and you don't realize how strong you are until, you've been tapped with something for you to step up and just really, see how far you can take something, whether it's recovery or whether it's growing something. Now, the opportunity to be on both of those sides. You know, I was literally dying. So I had to find resiliency to, you know, recover from that moment and then come out onto the other side to, you know, grow from that moment and, you know, find my purpose. Back to the other question, which is, you know, that's a unique moment as well because sometimes you don't know what your purpose is. There's a lot of times having conversations with people at work, my daughters, and trying to find what their purpose is. And I didn't find my purpose until I was 45. Sometimes purpose finds you. Sometimes you find purpose. But when you find something that you're passionate about, that's something special, that you can run with it and grow with it. And, you know, I found mine where I can bring my family into the fold. It's a family business. There's 6 of us that work there every day. And really, it magnifies what you're doing in life. And it also gives you an opportunity, again, to see how big you can take something. Failure is always going to be in front of you. It's going to happen. And you just got to tell yourself, it's just, how do you navigate through this? You know, it's not going to stop you. It's not going to tear you down. It's more like just a detour, you know, and you're going to find your way through it. As long as you keep the arrow going forward, you'll come out the other side.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to go up and visit Michael and the Wolfpack headquarters. And I got to say, I was like a kid in a candy store. It was so cool. I mean, he has everything in there. He's shooting content. There's, you know, people walking around. There's new drops. You get to see all the bags behind the scenes. And it was just really, what really struck me about visiting Wolfpack was the community that you built. The people that were working in there were so excited and happy to be there. You can really see that, you know, it's something special that you've created. How would you say that your purpose has helped to build this community? Because it seems to, I mean, it extends far beyond what you have, you know, within Wolfpack headquarters. Obviously, you know, I think Wolfpack is one of the most widely known brands within the bodybuilding space. So how did that happen? How did the purpose, you know, really, you know, drive that community growth?
You know, it started out with it was just me. You know, it starts in your head as a thought. Then you start taking thoughts into action and you start running with it. You know, of course, I have my family with me, the internal family, but ultimately inside you just feels like you're just doing it yourself. So you really had to come over that hurdle first. You know, I felt that way for probably a good year and a half. And I just kept telling myself, you know, just trust the process. Something's going to come to life with this, you know. And at the early days, we were nobody, you know. And you start to question, like, what the fuck are you doing? Is this going to happen? But again, you just got to keep going. And then you get to the other side of it, just like we are today when you showed up. And there's literally 50, 60 people working for us. And you start to just look back and say, wow, look what we created. And it's no longer a me thing. As I tell the team, it's a we thing. You know, we are creating this. And it's so cool too, because when we're building this out and I get to see them run with the same passion and purpose that I did when I was by myself. And they're just so in awe into the drops, into the content, building out the next bag design, figuring out what the, you know, board's going to look like, what the drop's going to do, who we're going to pull into the brand for it, who's going to be the face of the bag. And it's taken off to where I get to watch them now. And it's just really cool to see them kind of chase their purpose along the way.
Yeah, and you guys, one more thing on that. You guys go all in. When you did the Jurassic Park drop, I walked in and I was like, is there Jurassic Park music playing in here? There was. So that was pretty awesome. But I want to go back, Sean, to talk a little bit about some challenges. Let's get personal. Let's go deep. What are some of the challenges that you experienced throughout your career journey? And how have those challenges shaped your path?
Well, I mean, bodybuilding is all about body dysmorphia. I mean, there's challenges every day. We're looking at ourselves in the mirror every day. We're weighing ourselves. We're questioning what we're eating. Are we eating enough? Are we not eating enough? You're kind of playing it over in your head what your workout's going to look like. Then you get there and you have a good workout or you have a bad workout. Every day is different and nothing's guaranteed. The only thing that I think I had going for me was I had a strong mindset coming from football. Football kind of put me in the right frame of mind that I can break through these barriers. I can work out with anybody. I can hang with anybody. So I always train with guys bigger, older, stronger, more experienced to try to learn. And those challenges come every single day because bodybuilding is not something you turn off just because you're not in the gym or because you're not on the stage. There's a constant, it depends on how you handle it, constant subconsciousness. Am I good enough? Am I big enough? You know, and you're looking at your arms and your legs. And I mean, just going to the bathroom, getting out of the shower. There's not a mirror that I didn't look in whenever I was in my bodybuilding phase. It didn't matter if I was coming from the gym or wearing street clothes, but you're constantly looking at yourself. And it's a process of never really being satisfied. Even when I got second place in the Olympia, going into the finals, I had so many of my close people telling me I was going to win. So I set myself up for victory, and then you lose. And it's like going right back to the drawing board. So food kind of makes you feel better temporarily, but you think, I was this close to this thing happening. And then when it's all over and it's gone, I mean, I got to take all of that energy and put it somewhere else. Luckily, I think for me, becoming a promoter was the best because I affect so many more people than just myself. I get to ride their wave of their successes and their failures and give them my wisdom and my advice. Bodybuilding 101 is body dysmorphia, and every person deals with it differently. I was never big enough. I was never tall enough. I was never successful enough in my eyes throughout my whole career, even when I was really, really close to victory. And even when I won, for example, the Arnold Classic, it was like getting myself ready for the upcoming Olympia, where Lee Haney and Dorian were going to be waiting for me. And then there's this big drop off when it's all over. There's a relief of it being over, but not succeeding takes you right back to the back of the line. And it's like anything else. It's like Disneyland. You get in line and you wait for an hour and you get on the ride and it's super fun. Then you run back and you want to do it all over again. That's kind of how my bodybuilding career was. That's why I lasted so long. I was young and ambitious. But the scariest part was when it was all over. The stage is gone. The mirror's not validating me. The judges aren't judging me anymore. And now I got to use my head to keep the wheels on the machine, the sponsorships, the promotions, the marketing. I come from the magazine era and I watched the magazines disappear. Now we're in that digital space. So there's a whole nother level of learning and connecting with people that are half my age. I mean, it's an influencer industry. Like I had to earn the right to be in a magazine, on the cover of a magazine, a guest poser. Now, if you got the right algorithms, you can do it when you're 20 years old, 21 years old, just showing what you're eating every day or what you're wearing. You necessarily have to earn the right to be popular and in demand. You got to figure out kind of where your niche is. And I'm adjusting to that. There's a new level of athletes coming up behind me that I'm kind of learning how they do things. But along the way, all of these relationships that we have, they tie in differently. Like Michael's story, it resonates. I mean, like he was one. Now he's got like 50, 60 people working for him. Like I was one. I was the only one eating and training and bodybuilding, and I had to, monitor my career. Then it was over. Now I'm responsible for promoting a contest 6 hours away in Hawaii from California. And I'm expecting 150 athletes and putting on a Pro-Am contest. I need sponsors. I have to have the venue, I have the hotel, the trophies, all the swag for the athletes. And then when I get there, I'm the promoter. And everything from the light switch not working to the stage lighting, everybody has to come to me to get approval for whatever. I like it. It's challenging, but it's what keeps me going in this industry.
I feel that pain, Sean. I feel that pain. Kim, how about you?
Did you know that Gunter and I promoted the Hawaii show before you did?
Yes, I remember.
We actually,
Yeah, he mentioned Gunther because I was
isn't
there.
that
I was
funny?
at this
So
last
small
one.
world. So my husband and I, Gunter Schlierkamp, if you know the big guy, another big guy, we actually promoted the bodybuilding show. So I know all that struggle, and good on you, dude. Oof. Gunter and I were like, peace out. But so, and it's interesting because so much of that is so spot on because I think as an athlete, you're constantly, you're always in that. I mean, heck, just being a female, what do you mean not even athlete? Like you're always judging and comparing. And anyway, I'm going to share a very different struggle on a professional side. And it's something that I think is important for you guys to hear because I'm in it. I mean, I am thick in it and I'm just coming out the other end. I created Bionic Body fitness gear in 2014, and I teamed up underneath a licensing deal with a very powerful company named Impax. They have many brands, and before they took on Bionic Body, they had Adidas. So just saying, they play big ball. So it was a very successful 10-year licensing deal. And I won't lie, I got a little bit comfortable. I let them just do what they wanted. I came with the ideas. I said yes or no, but they got to do all the big stuff. And after about 5 years, I got kind of tired of asking to do things the way I wanted to. And I just was like, well, it's working. I'm getting paid. It doesn't really matter if they've lost the heart of what I want in the messaging of the brand. And I pursued a lot of other things while that brand was growing and growing. But last year, someone on the inside of the company told me that they took my #1 soft kettlebell that was selling very well and they put their brand on it. And there was no competition for me before that. I had the only soft vinyl covered kettlebell on the market. And to know that these people that I had been working like this with for 10 years, we had traveled together, we had They dissected the idea out of my brain. We made it come to life. It was mine. And to find out they were taking it from me, that was heartbreaking on a personal level, because I'm just not that bright. Like, my soul was ripped out. Never mind the fact that I hadn't even got to the part where, oh my gosh, how much money am I going to lose now that they're creating their kettlebell? Of course they're going to promote that over mine. And they did. They took mine out of all the retail stores, which was 50% of the money, and they put theirs in with their logo on it. You know, everybody's yapping at me, you got a lawsuit, you got to get to your lawyer, you know, this is terrible. And I'm like, I didn't know what to do. I felt one person, and I knew that I'm never going to win against this company. I am one person, and I don't have a bank account and an entire office full of legal like I know this company has. And I knew I was going to fight a losing battle. So it took me a while to kind of settle and go, what am I going to do? And at the core of my passion, this was my brand. Bionic Body was mine. And I was like, you guys messed with the wrong little girl. I have been nice for 10 years. You pissed me off, and I'm coming in flaming. I have over 10,000 reviews, 5-star reviews on Amazon with my brand. And when we first signed the licensing deal, I don't know why or how I knew to do it, but I signed up with the brand registry. I own the Bionic Body trademark. So I was like, this is my trademark. They cannot take this from me. And I dug and I studied and I found a way. It took me a year. And on New Year's Eve, no kidding, guys, New Year's Eve at 10:37 at night, I got an email from Amazon stating that I had won my case. And they gave me my brand back. And I cannot, like, I sat there, I was by myself New Year's Eve. I mean, I was in my pajamas. I was waiting to pick up my 15-year-old, trying to keep my eyes open, if you must know the truth. That's where I was at. And I sat there by myself and I was like, I just won. I just, like, me, by myself, nobody else, no lawyers, nobody won. I filed 87 cases with Amazon. Not easy. There's no people to talk to at Amazon, just saying. It's, you file a case. It would take me about 4 hours to file a case, and usually I got a response from a bot within 30 seconds of pushing that send button. And it was an instant rejection. And I was like, you know what? That passion, it fueled me. I was like, no, I will keep at it. Eventually, somebody will get my message. They will know that this is my brand with my face on it, with my trademark on it. And, you know, that struggle over the past year, I frequently asked myself, what would have happened if I would have given up on that one case prior to the one that won? What would have happened if I would have given up? And believe me, I thought about it. There was not a single day that I didn't go, am I absolutely crazy for trying to win this battle? So if you guys go to Bionic Body, at Bionic Body on Instagram, you will see one post. And I posted it yesterday. And I said to everybody, I'm starting fresh. I deleted everything that the other company posted because it wasn't me. And I'm like, now it's me. This is my story. And you guys are going to hear it. So don't be afraid ever in your career to, one, fight for your passion, and two, to pause and pivot. Stop. Go, what do I want? And pivot to whatever direction that is.
This is incredible advice. And we're actually coming close to time. And I do want to leave time for 2 questions from the audience. But I do want to find out, how many people in this room currently own a business or a club and studio? Amazing. And how many in here are aspiring entrepreneurs or owners? Fantastic. Aren't we all? So one last question for you guys, and then we'll take a couple from the audience. What's one piece of advice that you'd give to someone searching for or struggling to connect to their own why? And how would they, go about getting past that to launch a business? Michael.
Yeah. You got to process a lot in your head, have clear direction, but ultimately you can think about it, you can talk about it. The biggest rule is you got to take action. And I think that's a lot of things that hold people up in life is they're trying to find a perfect time. They're trying to find a perfect moment. They're trying to get all the answers first. And sometimes you just got to get the wheel moving and turn the wheel. And you can make it better throughout. It's kind of like we say, we're building the plane while we're flying, and it doesn't have to be perfect right now. You can optimize it. You can make it better. You can keep going with whatever that purpose is. So, ultimately, once you find something you're passionate about, you can lock in and you can take it to an actionable item and put it to life. That's the moment where you are going to be challenged. You're going to face failure. You're going to have great days. You're going to have bad days. They're going to come. I still have bad days today. I have bad months, and you just got to keep waking up and fighting the battle every day. And I fight the battle every day. I work 7 days a week. And when you want something that you're so passionate about, you don't work Monday through Friday. You don't work 8 hours a day because you're not that passionate if that's what your schedule is. You do when you want something, when you love something, you live an unbalanced life. You know, Sean, I'm sure 7 days a week, 24/7. Everything, every minute, every hour, every meal matters. And when you want to build something, when you want to build a legacy, that's truly your calendar. That is your watch every fucking minute. You need to be doing something that's chasing your passion, building your legacy, building your brand.
I think you were verbalizing what I used to think as a teenager. I'm the son of a janitor. And if you know anything about janitorial work, it's not glamorous. It takes place usually after 10 p.m., before 6 a.m. My dad had his own company, Ray Clean Building and Maintenance, raised 8 kids and kept a nice roof over our head. I was born into that. So I started in grade school as far as I can remember. And our whole neighborhood was employed at some point in time as my dad. But when I got to play football, that's where my passion was. And I knew at the end of the night I was going to get woken up and I was going to have to clean these big industrial buildings. And until you've done that for years of your life, you know, you find yourself, at least for me, I found myself daydreaming of opportunity, anything to get me out of this thing that I was born into because I didn't enjoy it. You know, we'd be in these big industrial buildings when no one's there and it's scary. You can hear a pin drop and you can see what seemed to be like for miles of a floor that you have to sweep. Because you drop some cleaning agent on top of it and it's like sawdust, and then you got to come back with the broom and you got to go in the bathrooms and do all the toilets, and you got 5-6-story buildings, and we're out in San Diego and we know it's an hour each way, and I got to be home and wake up for school, play football after school, lift weights, and then I know when I go to sleep at 8-9 o'clock I'm going to be woken up at 11. That was my life, and I daydreamed about getting out of that, and that passion that you were talking about was like when I got in the gym, it was go time, and I was going to use the gym to get away from janitorial work. And by the grace of God, it all kind of fell in place where I met my mentor, John Brown, and he took me kind of under his wing, made me a sparring partner, and I got into his way of thinking and just fast-tracked it through the pro league in bodybuilding. But it was a saving grace for me that I was all in. I sold out for bodybuilding. Now, janitorial work is not that hard. It's just about a matter of repetition. Bodybuilding was hard because I was beating myself up, tearing myself down, feeding myself, trying to, you know, sit rather than stand, walk rather than run, save my energy for the gym, knowing I had to combine that with the janitorial service. So bodybuilding kind of, for me, saved my life because my dad thought it was recreation. And then when my dad finally saw the rewards and the fruit of the labor that I had created for myself that he was not a part of, no one in my family was cooking for me and taking me to the gym and giving me the psychology of being a bodybuilder. But I locked in on what I wanted to do, which for me was a lifesaver, because the only thing that I did to make money since I was a teenager is bodybuild. Every dime that's ever come in my front door has come as a result of my sweat and commitment to bodybuilding. And when that was over, I used that same energy to try to continue to parlay my expertise in different areas to stay involved and invested in bodybuilding through relationships. So as far back as I can remember, the majority of my friends I made through the bodybuilding community, and a lot of them are very successful, and I stay close to them in different ways: gym owners, clothing manufacturers, supplement owners. But we've all kind of transitioned into where our passion is. I don't feel like I've worked a day in my life in bodybuilding, as hard as it is, but nothing compared to the janitorial quiet. It's quiet. You're in a building, 500 offices. You hear a noise and you don't know where it's coming from. I was a scared little kid half the time, but it shaped me for focusing on making this thing work. And in 4 years, I was a professional bodybuilder. So that's where I kind of really felt accomplished, not to mention I had a mentor in bodybuilding. I didn't have a coach or a trainer. I had a mentor that he introduced me to bodybuilding, and just as quickly as he introduced me, he was gone, and I had to kind of figure it out. Back in those days, you didn't have coaches, you didn't have trainers, you didn't have meal prep companies. You kind of had to figure it out through sparring with your training partners. So bodybuilding kind of has made me who I am today as a result of focusing like Michael was talking about.
I got to tell you guys,
Thank you.
I think it's okay to lose your why. I think it's a good thing sometimes. I think sometimes you just need to shut everything down and just lose your why. I lost my why at the beginning of the summer, and I just checked out. I didn't know why I was doing what I was doing anymore. I was just, you know, it was like I had a certain piece about me that I was like, so things are going to work out. But at the same time, I was like, I'm forcing it. My creative was gone because I was so in this grind all the time that my creative energy was just gone. And my husband's looking at me, he's like, who are you? Like, I hadn't stopped for 16 years. And I mean, I'm not kidding you. I had not stopped for 16 years. And I just stopped. I went to the beach. I studied all kinds of stuff on research peptides, got certified, went to all these different universities just because I wanted to. I did what I wanted to for an entire summer. And then at the end of that summer, I was like, I wonder if my why is ever going to come back because I kind of like this. And eventually it did. And I was like, okay, now I'm ready. But I tell you, those 3.5 months that I just checked out and took off, money was hurting, not going to lie. That sucked. But at the same time, I feel like I came back even stronger. So don't be afraid every once in a while to lose your why. I promise you, it will come back. Just give yourself time.
And nobody asked my advice, but I'm going to give it anyway. Don't let anyone tell you that fitness is not a real career, because it is. You just heard from 3 incredible founders and entrepreneurs who I admire so much and I actually consider friends. So they have built incredible careers in fitness, and they're just 3 examples, and there's so many people in this room. I mean, I got to share, like, my parents still ask me when I'm going back to work and when I'm going to be done doing this thing. I could throw a 200-person summit and I'll still be asked that question, but none of that matters, because you need to believe that health and fitness is a real career, and it is, because you're doing so much more than, dialing for dollars and showing up. You are saving lives. And I hope that some of these conversations today really helped you to believe that. And, that's really what Coach 360 and this whole community, that's what we're here to do, is help to support that career growth. So don't ever let anyone tell you it's not a real career, because it is. And with that, want to see, does anyone have a burning question? I know we're out of time, but maybe we could do one question. Al, is that okay? Anyone have a question for the founders up here? All right, go ahead.
While you guys were building your businesses, did you seek mentorship? Is this something you did alone and mentorship just came? Like, do you find it, or is it something just that happened naturally, like while you were trying to grow your business?
I think that's a really good question, because I really feel like it's very dependent on your personality. I'm extremely introverted and very much a self-learner. So for my entire career, I really was the lone wolf. And that was just, I didn't know how to reach out for mentorship. I didn't know how to ask for help. And in this second phase or second decade of Bionic Body, I have become extremely vulnerable and extremely good at just getting out there and asking questions, because I'm in territory now that I've never been. I mean, I'm learning how to bring containers across the ocean. I didn't even know what a 3PL was a couple years ago. So now I feel like I'm in a different space, and it feels good to go out there and to go to people that I know and or don't know, and just say, hey, I know nothing about what you do. First of all, tell me about what got you started in this, and tell me about how we can work together. What do I need to do to bring my stuff across the ocean? So, I don't think there's a right or a wrong with that, but I do think you have to be vulnerable to fess up and say, I don't know what I'm doing in this area, and I need your help.
For me as an athlete, I sought out guys that were good and just worked in with them. I didn't do what they did. I wanted to outdo them, challenge them in the gym, push them, take them into the deep end, try to drown them. The harder I trained, the more they'd push back, and it kind of rubbed off in that regard. But as a bodybuilder, it's not something that rubs off. Like, it's got to come from within. I can't pour myself into someone and expect them to have the same level of success without the same mindset. So coming from a different place, but I think when you're around people, like-minded people, it's easier to kind of absorb things and then try them on your own. I wasn't around promoters when I decided to be a promoter. I just jumped in. I did a few seminars. I thought, I know what these guys do, and so I just wound up doing it. And once I did it once, I knew I could do it again and again. I've been doing it since 2006.
And if I could touch on that question, I was 45, again, in the automotive business for 25 years. Decided to switch lanes, jumped into the e-commerce business, knew nothing, just like Kim was saying, didn't know what a 3PL was. Either did I. I didn't know what a domain was. I didn't know URL what. You're like, nothing. And to make that decision at 45, when people are trying to find security in life, and I'm jumping out into the deep end. So it's okay to not know what the answers are. I just needed to know what my next step was. I use the analogy all the time. When you're a bodybuilder or in fitness, a lot of times you got a coach, you got a mentor, you got someone who tells you what to eat, when to work out, and you just got to be a doer at that time. You don't have to be a thinker, And then when you jump into what I did, and there was no coach, there was no mentor. I literally lived in the dark for 2 years trying to figure out how to get this off the ground. And I leaned into, there's so much information out there. We live in a world of technology. I leaned into podcasts. I leaned into just Audible books. I listened my ass off, hours and hours of just people that got there before I did, and just started pulling out like their success points. Say, okay, this must be what I got to do. So to give you a little bit of spark or passion or hope, like again, at 45, I jumped into the e-commerce business. I knew nothing. And I am still learning today. People may look from the outside looking in, think we got our shit together. We don't. We do very well for what we know. But again, I've not taken off my student hat. I am still a student of the game. Along the way, I'm being a teacher for what I know to the people that work for me. But every day, I'm a student. Here I am, going to be 52 and still trying to master my craft on something I started just 6 years ago. And we'll keep doing it. And we'll keep getting bigger because I'm not going to fucking stop.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, you guys. This was a great conversation. Hopefully it helped some of you aspiring entrepreneurs out there.